From the 22 News Plus studio, this is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of InFocus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. It has been a long time since I had to put a car seat in one of my vehicles, since my daughters are in their mid to late 20s now. A lot has changed in those 2 decades since I had to purchase a car seat, which is why from Consumer Reports, we have Dr. Emily Thomas. She is the Associate Director of Auto Safety, and she specializes in a number of safety issues, specifically car seats. So, Dr. Thomas, thank you very much for coming in. I really do appreciate you coming in to talk about this. Am I right that car seat safety has changed dramatically in 20-something years?
There have been a lot of changes, yes. Recommendations have changed, designs have changed. We even now have new changes in regulation as well. So a lot has changed.
And also, one of the things that has changed too is ages of when kids can get out of seats. For me, it was it was a device. It was sort of a convertible. It had a base. You click the baby infant seat into, and then as they got older, because that was rear facing. And then as they got older, it turned and became like a regular car seat that you would see nowadays. And then we had a completely separate device that was a booster seat that, the kid just got strapped into. Is it the same process now, or?
Yeah, so most families are going to start off with that infant seat like you mentioned. So you're going to have your kind of bucket style infant seat that clicks into a base in the car. It's rear facing only. And then after that, families will move to a convertible or an all-in-one car seat and start off rear-facing. These seats will go rear-facing to forward-facing, and all-in-one will also be able to become a booster seat eventually, where you're just using the vehicle seatbelt and not the 5-point harness anymore. And then ultimately, children land in a booster car seat. So that's kind of the typical progression. I think things that have changed are, like you said, how long people keep their kids in car seats. There's been a tremendous amount of car seat education in the past, 20, 25 years to really inform parents and educate them on the benefits of keeping your children restrained in a car seat. How long you should be, like what are the new recommendations from, like the American Academy of Pediatrics and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, these resources that are kind of really doing the research, from, even just the researchers who are studying pediatric injury in the automotive setting, better understanding how are kids' bodies different than adults. Right. And that was a lot of what my research area was in. Is understanding pediatric injury biomechanics. And we used to say all the time that, kids are not just small adults. So you can't just take an adult body and scale it down and kind of apply the same countermeasures that you would for adults to kids, because it's not just a matter of size differences, but there's also like significant material differences as well. Their bodies are still growing and maturing. Their bones are getting harder and stronger. And so the way that their body reacts in a crash is going to be different than how an adult's body reacts in a crash, which is why we have a better understanding now. We're still learning more things all the time, but the recommendations have changed about, you really should keep your children rear facing at least until they're 2 years old. But the best thing to do would be to keep them rear facing up to the manufacturer's height or weight limit for rear-facing mode before you turn them around.
It's interesting. I'm a family of small people. Both my girls were really tiny. They would have been in a rear-facing seat till they were like 7.
Yeah.
But it's also it's not just height, weight too. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's also developmental too. I mean, a 7-year-old, really doesn't need to be in a rear-facing seat.
It's developmental, but less about their maturity. It's more about their body's development. So I would say the developmental maturity really comes into play when you're thinking about taking your child from a 5-point harness into a booster seat, because now they have to be restrained by the vehicle seatbelt, and you need that child to sit upright, to wear their seatbelt properly, to keep it on them properly for an entire car ride.
Right.
And so that's when we give the recommendation or when families ask us, well, my child's in a 5-point forward-facing 5-point harness. When can I take them out and put them into the booster seat? That's one of our big questions is, will your child be able to maintain proper belt fit for an entire car ride? Or are they still maybe like too young and
Too
just not
little.
too little to
Yeah.
just really, remember that they shouldn't be slouching in their booster seat. They should be sitting upright. They shouldn't be leaning forward or to the side. They can't take their seatbelt and now tuck it behind their arm or their
Right.
back. So developmental maturity in that regard really comes into play when you're making that transition from, forward-facing harness to the booster seat and the vehicle belt. And then, again, from removing the booster seat to just using the vehicle belt. But when you're thinking about, going from rear facing to forward facing, really you want to be thinking about, the child's height, their weight. What is that? Does it exceed what the manufacturer says for the limits on the rear facing mode? And also their age, because age is an indicator of skeletal development.
Right.
So, the sooner that you make that transition, their bones just aren't quite strong enough yet. Their ligaments and, their tendons and muscles are not just quite strong enough yet to
They're not a mini adult.
They're not a mini adult, right?
Right.
And so they need to be able to withstand those crash forces. So the benefit of keeping your child rear facing longer is, the most common crash type is frontal impacts.
Right.
And so when your child is in a rear facing car seat in a frontal impact, those crash forces are going to get spread across the back of that car seat. Right. So,
There's no whipping forward.
There's no whipping forward. So all those forces are being spread out. So that means there's less forces being applied to the child themselves. If they're forward facing, though, and forward facing too early, now you're spreading those forces out across their harness, which is a smaller surface area, right, in the back of the car seat.
Right.
And their head is going to be able to free motion, right, or move freely and whip forward, as you said. Their neck and spine is not strong enough really to withstand those forces. So we see a lot more incidents of head and neck injuries forward facing.
Right. Makes sense.
Rather than, staying rear facing longer for those younger age groups, because we really want to keep them rear facing for longer. But a lot of times families get concerned because their child's rear facing and they start to see that their legs look scrunched up.
Right.
They're, maybe, propping them up against, the back of the seat. And for us as adults, we look at that and we're like, you barely have any room. You look so uncomfortable. So we get a lot of parents asking us, well, my kid looks uncomfortable, they're rear facing, so it must be time to turn them forward. It's actually no, that's not true. There's a couple of things to remember. One, they're not mini adults. So their joints are way more flexible than ours because they're still developing and they're just the material properties of them are just so much different than ours. So they're actually quite comfortable. And there was a study that was done years ago that was looking at a parent's perception of child's comfort in their car seat. And then they also looked at comfort indicators of the children themselves. And the parent's perception was that the child was uncomfortable, but the child wasn't actually exhibiting any of the discomfort indicators.
That the parent thought.
And so our perception of our child's comfort in their car seat doesn't actually match our child's comfort level. So we might think they're uncomfortable rear facing, but they're actually quite fine. And the real world injury risk of lower extremity injuries from rear facing is minimal compared to the head and neck injuries that we see from children that are turned around forward facing too early.
Very interesting. We are up on our first commercial break. Stay with us. We've got plenty more to talk about when it comes to keeping our kids safe in cars. We're back in a moment.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. We're here in the 22 News Plus studios. Sitting across from me from Consumer Reports, child safety expert is Dr. Emily Thomas. Dr. Thomas, thank you again for joining me. We covered a lot of ground in that first portion of this conversation. But parents, and you kind of talked about when to move kids from one type of seat to the next type of seat. And I want to pull up this chart here that's Consumer Reports has put together. And this is mind-boggling to me because on the far bottom right, you've got booster seat until almost age 11. Explain to me the thought processes between these four groups and the ages.
Sure. So we'll start with the babies, right? So every child leaves the hospital, has to leave in a car seat.
Let me interrupt you there. Is it a law that a child needs to be in a car seat? You know? I don't know.
I know that it is required. I don't know if I can speak to
Yeah.
the legality of it, but
You'd be a fool not to.
certainly. And I know that the hospitals won't allow a child to leave without a car seat.
Oh, okay. Oh, good to know.
So you have to have a car seat. You have to, bring the car seat up to the room. I know even when I, had my two boys, right, we had to bring our car seat up to the room. We had to show the child was properly harnessed, and then we could go. They would check it first before, because, well, I guess you're right. It is a law because children, every state has laws about child passenger safety. So each state will have a law about what ages a child must be restrained in a car seat.
Right.
So it is required.
Okay. All right. So back to our chart here. Sorry to sidetrack a little bit.
No, it's okay. So most families, as I mentioned before, are going to start off with an infant car seat, right? So that's your bucket style car seat. It has a lot of portability. It's very convenient. It's the one that will strap into your base, strap into a stroller that's
Clicks
compatible.
in or whatever it might do. Yeah.
Yep. Just clicks in. You can leave the base installed in the vehicle. And you can just take out the carrier. Our recommendation from our own crash testing, because we do a frontal impact crash test that goes beyond the federal standards. So every car seat that's sold in the United States has to meet a federal safety standard. So there's a minimum bar of safety that's insured. And we test beyond that. We test at a higher speed. We use a more representative vehicle rear seat environment. And in our testing, we also use the child-sized crash test dummies. So when we used the 12-month-old crash test dummy in infant car seats rear-facing and also in convertible car seats rear-facing, we saw a higher incidence of head contact with what would be like a simulated front seat back.
Okay.
In a rear-facing infant seat compared to those rear-facing convertibles or all-in-ones. And it's really because, you have this child that is close to the upper limits of the infant seat and in terms of height and weight. And the infant seat, the shell is not as tall as like a convertible or an all-in-one that's going to, accommodate an older child rear-facing. And so really, if you transition them, our recommendation is that no later than a child's first birthday, you transition them from an infant car seat to a rear-facing convertible or all-in-one.
Okay.
And that's to give them that additional head protection. There's more room for your child to move safely within the confines of their car seat in the event of a crash and to, reduce that risk of head contact and head injury. So you're going to keep your child rear-facing now in a convertible or all-in-one, really up to at least to 2 years old, which many states that's the minimum requirement, or up to the manufacturer's height or weight limit for rear-facing mode, whichever comes first. At that point, you're going to transition them to forward-facing, and you want to keep them harnessed forward-facing. Again, you really want to try to keep them forward-facing in that harness up to the height or weight limit that is specified by the manufacturer for that car seat. Every transition in car seat usage, whether it's the type of seat or the orientation, it changes like the level of safety. If you think about race car drivers,
they're locked in.
They're locked in, right?
Yeah.
Like they're in 5-point harnesses. They're in seats that are molded to them. Now we all can't drive in a 5-point harness.
But we can put our kids in a 5-point harness.
We can put our kids in a 5-point harness. The research would even show that if adults could travel in their cars rear facing in a 5-point harness, that would probably be the safer. Right? That would be the safest for all of us. But we can keep our children in a 5-point harness. So the recommendation is really keep your child forward facing in that 5-point harness up to the height or weight limit that's specified by the car seat.
Gotcha.
At which point you're now going to transition them to a booster seat. Now, the booster seat, the point of a booster seat is to raise your child to meet the vehicle seatbelt. Cars are designed for adults.
Right.
Seatbelts are designed for adults. And so that seatbelt is not meant to restrain a child properly. Proper seatbelt usage means that your shoulder belt is going to come across the middle of your collarbone and across the middle of like your sternum.
Mhm.
So the middle across your chest. Your lap belt is supposed to go across your hip bones. So it's like, low across your hip, not high across the belly or,
Across
low
your
across
thighs, yeah.
your thighs. But if you just tried to put a child into a vehicle seatbelt without an additional
Misfitting.
boost,
Right.
it's not going to fit them properly. And so when you don't have proper belt fitment, you're not going to have proper restraint, and you're going to have a higher incidence of injury. So we use the booster seat to elevate the child.
So it fits. So the child fits within the seatbelt properly.
Exactly.
Very good.
Now, the American Academy of Pediatrics says that most children are going to stay in a booster seat until they're between the ages of 8 to 12.
Wow.
Really, on average, the transition is closer to 10 or 11 years old.
Okay.
And that's because you want to make sure that that vehicle belt is fitting your child properly. So you can check, we have great content on our website. It's all free, consumerreports.org. That gives you like the 5-point test to check to see whether or not your child needs to still stay in their booster seat. Okay. So basically you look at their belt fit with the booster seat on, you take the booster out, you have them sit down, buckle up, and now you look at their belt fit again. Is that shoulder belt laying properly? Right. Is the lap belt laying properly? Do their knees bend over the edge of the vehicle seat? Because if they don't bend over the edge of the vehicle seat, your child is going to slouch to make themselves more comfortable. And when they do that, that causes the lap belt to ride up onto their belly. Right? Think about it. If you have the edge of the vehicle seat now like jamming you in the back of your calves, you're going to get like dead leg. And so you're going to be uncomfortable and you're going to make adjustments. So it's important to keep that child in a booster seat until the vehicle belt actually fits them properly, because you want to make sure that seatbelt is going to do its job.
Fantastic. We are up on our second commercial break. Still more to talk about. Join us in just a moment.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. Sitting across the desk from me from Consumer Reports, talking about child car safety seats, is Dr. Emily Thomas. Dr. Thomas, thank you so very much for joining me. We have covered so much ground on this, but I do want to ask, one of the things I think parents face is the most expensive car seat the safest car seat? What's your answer?
Not necessarily.
Really?
Yeah. So I think people have that impression.
If I spend the most, it's like a car. If I buy the most expensive car, it's the safest car, the most efficient.
Right. So really, the safest car seat for your child is going to be the one that fits your child and fits your car every single time. And so, we've kind of talked through like how to know whether or not your car seat fits your child if you're using the appropriate seat. Mm-hmm. When it comes to whether or not it fits your car, you need to be able to get a secure installation in your vehicle and maintain a secure installation.
Well, let me ask you though, how do I know if it's secure? I can read CR, I can go online and read CR. Is there somewhere, no matter what community people live in, that they can go and get their car seat and their child checked?
Yes. So, the rule of thumb is your car seat is installed tight enough if you pull at it where you've routed the seatbelt or the lower anchor strap, and you can't pull, it doesn't move more than 1 inch side to side or front to back.
Okay.
So it has to be in there really snug because you want to make sure that basically your car seat is what we kind of call tied to the vehicle so that it's benefiting from the vehicle crash management system, which then reduces the crash energy that gets transferred to the child. Now, in order to get your car seat checked, there are certified car seat technicians all over the country. You can go to safekids.org and look for a car seat check event near you. You can also go to NHTSA.gov
What's that
And
one?
NHTSA.gov, NHTSA.gov.
Oh, National Highway Transportation Safety Authority?
Yes.
Okay.
So the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has on their website a place where you can search, you can put in your zip code, and it'll basically pull up where the local car seat technicians
Oh,
are in
cool.
your area so that you can find a technician or a car seat check event that will have somebody who can look at your car seat. A lot of people assume that you could just go to your fire department or police station, and while there are probably very well-meaning people there to help out, that doesn't necessarily mean that they've actually been certified as a car seat technician.
Okay.
So you do want to use one of these two resources to find someone who has gone through the training, has maintained their certification, because everyone on the car seat team at CR has our certification, and you have to renew every 2 years. So there's
Oh,
things that you
wow.
have to do
Okay.
to maintain your certification. So you want to make sure you're actually having somebody look at it who's, up to date on the latest recommendations and how to use them properly, and, the different changes in the technology and regulation, et cetera.
How long has Consumer Reports been testing car seats?
Zero Reports has been testing car seats since the 1970s.
Oh,
We
wow.
actually were testing them before there was even a federal mandate for them. So there was car seat products out, and if you've seen any of the old pictures, they kind of look like glorified
You have
high
a
chairs.
museum down at the office?
We have pictures up on the walls of some of the old seats that went through testing, and they basically look like high chairs that you would use like at the
Yeah.
dining room
Oh, yeah,
table.
exactly.
And so, they give me a lot of pause. But CR was testing them, and then using that test data and even the testing environment that we had done, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration used that testing to kind of really inform how they were going to create the federal standard for car seats.
Okay.
So we've been testing since the 70s. The standard came out, I believe, in like the early 1980s. And yeah, we've been testing them for a really long time.
Wow. Emily, our time is up. I can't thank you enough for joining me today. Fascinating conversation on car seat safety. I had no idea how involved it was, and really more so how advanced, I guess is possibly the right word, of how Consumer Reports looks at car seats and really puts it together. ConsumerReports.org is the website.
Yep.
You can go in. There's a bunch of information.
You can find free car seat ratings, so you don't even have to be a member of Consumer Reports to access the ratings for car seats. Go to cr.org/car seats. And we also have a quiz if you need help finding a seat for you
Cool.
that will match your budget and your lifestyle. There's a lot of great education available as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I
Thank you
appreciate
for having me.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.